What is up, my bodyweight warriors, and welcome back to another video. Today we have got a new podcast for you, and my guest on today's podcast, as you can tell by the title, is Mr. Timothy Shieff. Now, Tim has been maybe a polarizing character for a lot of people over the years, but for me personally, I always respect him in what he's doing. He goes in at 100% to whatever it is he's doing. He's done all these incredible things in parkour, movement of the body, and also he's gone into veganism pretty hard, but recently has dropped out of veganism as well. So in this podcast today, we're going to be talking about his experience there, the reasons for dropping veganism, how he went through it. That's going to kind of cover the first half of this podcast. And then the second half, we're going to delve into what he's doing with his training at the moment, his attitudes to movement, where he thinks flexibility and the importance of flexibility play in training. And there's just a general conversation. I don't want to have this video too structured. I just wanted to have a chat with Tim because he's an interesting guy. I respect, as I said, the amount he goes into whatever it is he's looking at and interested in. He's probably one of the more authentic and real people I've met out there on social media. So without further ado, enjoy this episode. I'll hand you over to this conversation. Enjoy. What is up, my bodyweight warriors, and welcome back to another Bodyweight Warrior podcast. Today I'm joined by the polarizing, but I'm a big fan of, Tim Shieff. If any of you don't know who Tim is a free runner, I guess ex-vegan now. He was the vegan prince. He's done so many awesome things in his life and things that have gone back years. I mean, for me personally, I remember first watching him on, I believe it was an episode of Top Gear, and it was yourself and I can't remember who else it was. Blue, and you guys were racing, was it James May? Through like, was it the BBC place?
Headquarters when they shut it down, but they've reopened it. Yeah.
If any of you like free running, just go watch that one. That one's epic. And then also Walters and Shieff, which is like a YouTube series from 2013. I can remember watching that back in the day, and it's just you and Damien Walters is like having a good time, messing around, doing some crazy stuff.
Fun times.
Nowadays, Tim, you're kind of, just getting back into, I guess, being real to yourself, which is something you've always been. But maybe for like those of you who don't know you, I've given you like a little brief intro there, but do you want to give people a little bit more information about you, what you're currently up to?
Yeah. I guess I did all the free running stuff. I won the World Free Running Championships in 2009. And then Ninja Warrior, people might have seen me on that. I was last man standing on a few seasons of that. Beyond that, and then I got on sort of this path with veganism and really believed in it and committed to it as being part of, trying to do that with the movement stuff and the Ninja Warrior and stuff like that. But eventually I realized I had some real issues health-wise. I never blamed it on the diet at all, and I tried everything to sort of solve it without looking at the diet itself, without that. And eventually came to the realization that I should try to step outside of that realm. And when I did, I noticed massive health changes, and I couldn't deny that. So that's been the last few years for me, has been trying to solve my health and then feeling like I've got some answers, and then coming out of that, of course, being quite a figurehead within the vegan world. Create a bit of drama on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that drama for me, I understand people's, dietary habits can become that religious level of belief. People put their faith in X sort of thing. But for me, I think for a people who, they believe in veganism, they believe in love and compassion, I was quite shocked at the response you got when you did come out as you weren't vegan anymore, at the lack of compassion from people in that community. Like, at the end of the day, you're saying, actually, I felt really bad. Like, I did not have health. I did not have the things that I wanted. I wasn't able to do some of the things I wanted in life. I mean, I coached you.
Yeah.
And we mentioned this briefly beforehand. It's like, you came to me, we did a mobility program, and you said things weren't working for you. And you sent me over some assessments as part of it, and I saw, like, your body, how it looked. You didn't look like you were feeling well. I didn't like say anything at the time because I knew that was your thing and it wasn't my business. But, I think, firstly, a massive respect to you for standing up to being authentic, which is something that we really lack a lot of the time online, and just being honest with people in what you're doing. Was the decision to, like, 'cause I know you've got your business, you've got so many things invested in veganism, what was the decision like to share kind of where you were at honestly with people?
I never questioned that I would have to be honest and share it. Like that was always from the beginning. I knew my role going into veganism, and at the same time, me promoting veganism, whether people went vegan or not, it still helped people make. I think it helped a lot of people think more about where the food came from, even if they weren't thinking about it before. You know, and so it helped in that sense when I spoke my truth before. And I think once again, my role in it is to speak my truth and to help people continue to make conscious food choices, and that's whether that's vegan or not. Moving forward, I found a local farm shop that I now support rather than importing fruit from all over the world, and I feel that I'm doing my bit in supporting that local farm shop. And I think there was definitely a lot of tension as a vegan between vegans and farmers, and there's a lot of they go out and protest at these farms while they're buying imported produce from all over the world. And it's like those farmers were our best allies for our ancestors, for our parents and all that. And we've been caught. I think that when you go vegan, that for me, there's sort of a spiritual ego appeared that was hard to oversee, kind of thing. And then coming out of it, it's like, oh, I see where my mind was at with all that, and I just feel like I'm growing with it. And I have to speak my truth. I have to share it. And as you said, I did the program, and I really stuck to the program for like I'd say for like 2 weeks. Sticking to the program for 2 weeks. I was there. I went to the gym near me, and I was doing it. And when I was on the road, I was still doing the program. But I was getting stiffer and stiffer. My muscles were really breaking down and then not recovering. And then it felt like living in my body. Everything I was trying to recover, I was getting boxed into it, like the walls were closing in on me. It really felt like that. And like I would get injured doing yoga, and then the injury would last for 30 days or something. And I'd be going to like easier classes, and then still the injuries would stay, and I didn't know what was going on. So that led me to the final chapter of that was when I did a water fast, which you might have seen some of that.
Distilled water fast, right?
35 days of nothing but distilled water. And came out of that, I actually ended up being way more mobile after that. I did a video, you might have seen that one on like... Yeah, which was interesting just to see how much, I guess it is muscle, but beyond muscle, it was more like inflammation that was restricting my mobility. Do you know what I mean? It was like from the diet, I was getting inflamed from over-consuming carbs or whatever it was doing. I was getting all these issues. And then, yes.
I mean, my personal take on it, my perception of what you were feeling was just that nervous system response, that sympathetic response, that like lack of the nutrition you needed while still pushing your body to that degree. It wasn't necessarily...
During the vegan days, during the veganism for sure. That was what was... And I've since spoke to people and they think it's cholesterol that is what helps your muscles in whatever it was lacking. And so that's been the massive changes since coming back and being able to train and go to yoga and actually make progress and see my progress, my mobility progressing, and at the same time feeling my muscles feel like there's several times I broke down, once at yoga, once rock climbing, when I just felt my muscles warm again, like activated and warm from the inside. And then when I get tweaks since then, I'll like tweak a shoulder and I'll be like, oh no, and the next day it'll be fine, it'll be completely fine. And I was really getting used to like I'd watch UFC and I'd watch these fighters fight and get battered, and then 3 months later they're fighting again, and I'm here like struggling to run 2 kilometers without my calves being really strained. And I was looking at 60-year-old people running by me, and I'm like, I'm a 30-year-old man, and what I do, I believe my diet is the optimum diet at the time. I believe veganism is the optimum diet for humans, and I just can't seem to work this out. What's going on, you know? And like you have to remove yourself from the situation to see it, and to do that I had to do the fast to remove myself.
So was the fast that point of which you, like, what led you up to that point to make that decision?
Because I tried all the different diets within veganism. I tried whole like high fat, I tried high carb, I tried raw diets, I tried fruitarianism, which I really believed in. I was doing intermittent fasting all the time. I tried supplements and I played with them. I didn't do loads of supplements, but I played with them enough to realize that it wasn't the thing wasn't right. That wasn't what I was missing or lacking in the end. And so the fast was like, I'd seen other people leave veganism, and my one bit of advice to them would have been, no, you don't need to do that, just fast. All your issues are coming from all the junk you used to eat before you were vegan. It's still stored in your body. You need to detox it out. Fasting will be the... So the one thing I would have advised others to do, I did that. I just followed my own advice. And it may not have been the right thing in the long run, but it's what I needed to do short term to get to the next step. And when that didn't work, that was the last ditch attempt to solve it, and it didn't work. And when I ate animal products again, I ate some salmon and some local eggs. And
so was that the first thing that you ate?
so I had raw eggs. I put 2 eggs in a glass and I downed them. And then it was weird, but then I felt vigor in my body. I felt life come back, and then I had some salmon, and like I mentioned and got shared around Lad Bible and the Daily Mail and CBS and Huffington Post and all this stuff. I had a wet dream, and I think someone like yourself, yeah, it's funny, but at the same time, that's hormones, right? That's something.
Yeah, steroid hormones.
Yeah, like I've had like 1 or 2 in my life before that, and that was like, oh, I've eaten differently in this, and then I felt warmer in my body. I feel really cold in the winter. I felt a lot warmer in my body. Even being able to take cold showers and things, and I went ketogenic, and that was phenomenal in terms of realizing how much diet gives us inflammation and how much of our stiffness comes from our gut, from our belly, from not realizing we've got little intolerances to food. We might not be allergic, but I think a lot of us have more intolerances than we're aware of. And when you really tune in and take a lot of foods out, and then you reincorporate foods one at a time, you start to realize, oh, that simple thing like that head of lettuce or that broccoli, actually it makes me feel quite inflamed or bloated or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
So when you made that decision, like, and you started incorporating things back in, obviously your diet shifted, like what does it look like now for you? Are you still are you eating a reasonable amount of animal products? Are you sticking to certain kinds? Are you trying to shop locally? Like, I'd love to hear how you're taking that conscious, compassionate side of you and applying it to the new diet.
Yeah, I mean, I went deep into the animal products just to see, like, to understand that. That's just the way I seem to live, is like I'll delve into the extremes of something to understand it on the smaller scale, like to see what it does when you just do that. But at the moment, I'm eating mostly, it's like turkey mince and salmon, really, is most of my food. I'm eating meat once a day, sometimes twice a day, but mostly once a day at the moment. Mm-hmm. But I did go through a period where I'd have it 2-3 times a day. Yeah. And I'd have like 10-15 eggs a day, but at the moment it's down to like 4 or 5 eggs and a piece of meat. And then I'll have like zucchini noodles and some pesto sauce and a salad with some oil and salt, and I'll make like an omelette in the evening, and I'll buy like a vegan ice cream for like a dessert in the evening. And I have Revolution Foods, is like a vegan protein. I just went to see them today. I have like because I still think like plant protein, if you're going to have a protein powder, is the optimum one over like whey or casein. And then obviously whey and casein you're still supporting an industry which you don't know. I don't know if anyone's ever like seen like an ethical organic whey or something. I'm sure they probably do them, but you just don't need that kind of stuff anyway. I'm not really.
Yeah, there are questionable ethics when it comes to dairy, depending on where and what you source it from.
Absolutely, yeah. And dairy itself, just of all the animal products, eggs and like animal flesh seem to be really healing and healthy for me, but the dairy I definitely notice is more of a reaction within my body. So yeah, mostly I'm trying to find this balance, because a lot of vegans are going straight to carnivore and feeling amazing. You see this whole shift from to carnivore, and I understand it, because we did a lot of damage to our gut over consuming plant products, which there's stressors to digest, and there's anti-nutrients and all this stuff, and all these, they're not even filled with any. Are they even filled with nutrients because the soil's depleted as it is? So
I think as well the issues of sort of you not necessarily meeting all your nutrient requirements and having to leach minerals from your bones or get, in other sense, a lot of the benefits I've had from carnivore is more about like improving bone density and bone mass.
So I have bone broths and stuff, and so like collagen and that. Yeah, that seems really good stuff. And just trying to heal the gut. I make like nettle teas from local. I go pick some nettles and I make I just boil them up for 20 minutes. It tastes really good, actually, surprisingly. But I'm working on healing the gut because I want to help. I still want to help, and I don't think anyone really wants to be carnivore full time. But I understand if they've got gut issues and it's the only thing that doesn't cause them the symptoms to flare up, that why they're going to do it. But we need to solve it. So I actually found some supplements I'm currently taking as well. That's essentially, there's 91 essential vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids, and amino acids we need in our daily diet. And this one supplement package, it comes in 3 different things. You take them in 2 powders and a pill kind of thing. That's been really helping as well, and that's helped me to deal with. I had to eat really meticulously and perfectly to not feel shit every day. Like, it really, you know what I mean? It got really tough. And I look at these CrossFitters like Tia Claire Toomey eating donuts every day. Like, fittest woman on earth she can eat fucking what she wants, and she gets to train like a badass and enjoy her body and enjoy life. And I'm like, okay, I don't have to eat donuts every day, but I still want to be able to enjoy some things once in a while and not feel like absolute crap and wake up with like stiff ankles and I can barely walk to the bathroom and it takes me like an hour to warm my body up. And that's not right. Something still needs to be fixed. So I'm still solving that, and I'm definitely making massive strides in everything I'm doing.
I think that sort of thing is definitely like a lifelong educational process. And it's interesting you mentioned people like this CrossFitters. Like, there's definitely a degree of being genetically gifted. Some of these people like can literally just deal with it. They are the 1%ers.
Yeah, they say that some of the best athletes have the best guts, right? The best gut health.
Yeah.
Like, I've heard that before, and I think there's something to that,
I mean, did you lived out in the America for a short period of time, right?
I was born in America. I lived there for like 6 months in LA doing some MTV series, and then I've lived in London for 6 years.
Did you find when you were in that sunnier climate that you responded better to veganism? And this is out of my own personal interest because I've sort of seen that the people who really do thrive well on the vegan diets tend to be people who are based in the tropical climates, getting a lot of sun exposure and a lot of other things.
I mean, I've spent a lot of time in Thailand when I was vegan, and I felt, generally, when you're in nature, I think you can deal with anything a lot better. But yeah, sun certainly helps. You probably do deal with it better, but at the same time, there's still, I think, like you say, genetics plays a massive role, and I think my ancestors are from this area, so it's, yeah.
From the north, they're used to the cloudy, the rainy, the wet, the cold.
And in winter, you'd be pretty much ketogenic, I think, to survive through. You'd be eating, maybe some spuds and potatoes, so maybe not quite keto, but you'd be eating a lot of more animal products in the winter, and then in the summer you'd be more vegan diet. And I think maybe there's truth on all sides. Maybe we should all be vegan for a month a year and ketogenic for a month a year or something, or closer to that, and then you get the healing ailments of each thing. There's obviously truth in it, and people heal cancer with veganism, but then over like a few months or 6 months or a year, but then they stick with it like it's like you say, like a religion. You get hooked on it, a medicine, and then you get problems in 6 years. And it's like, okay, maybe it stops growth. Maybe that is what it's doing. So you're not eating the animal products, but you're encouraging growth of the cancer cells or whatever. So it does help fight cancer in that sense. Something like that. And so there's truth to all sides, but it's just not getting addicted or hooked on one side.
How do you feel? How do you kind of morally go between, like, when you're a veganism? There's definitely this idea of, like, as you mentioned, that sort of spiritual superiority. I'm doing things like you're putting yourself behind. There's that self-sacrifice. You're putting yourself behind, like, the environment, the animals, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
How do you think it's a way to communicate with people that you need to put yourself first so that you can better serve the world as a larger thing? Like, is there a way that you kind of would want to justify that or put that in a...
It's a good question.
It's not a good question. I phrased that terribly wrong, but hopefully you...
No, I know what you're saying, though. Yeah, it is. It's a good one. Paul Chek's one of the... Do you know Paul Chek?
Yeah, I'm qualified for his...
you got Chek Institute? Cool, man. So he's one of the guys that really helped me see through it, because he seems really spiritually connected and, like, coming from that angle. And I recently recorded a podcast with him as well, which was really good to chat to him.
Were you on his podcast, the 4D one?
Yeah.
Very
Don't think it's out yet though, but we recorded it. It was a great chat.
He's an interesting guy, very interesting guy.
Very interesting guy, because he goes deep on every, like, from mainstream
on
to
every plane of deep. He is there.
Yeah, exactly. He can like appear anywhere. Like he's won astral projection competitions and stuff like that, which is nuts, absolutely nuts. But yeah, he talks about, cows can't save lives. Cows can't put out fires or vote for presidents or whatever, and it's like we need a healthy humanity before we can have a healthy Earth. We've got to look out for ourselves, and also realizing that every choice we make has consequences. Like choosing to eat vegetables, there's probably still animals died for that choice, regardless.
Yeah,
it still kills the vegetable. It still kills that plant. And then, and like you said, the Jordan Peterson thing earlier, like embracing that my existence, it causes suffering. The only way to exist and not cause harm is to commit suicide. Well, it's not existing, it's suicide, right? That was the realization, and what it felt suicidal to continue doing what I was doing. So if there's consequences to my choices, whether I choose vegan or not vegan, there's animals dying, there's environments being destroyed, habitats being destroyed. So why not choose the one that makes me feel the best, and then give thanks for that and pray for that? And that's what I started doing, and then I felt the health return to my body. So there is no choice without consequence, and it's like I felt like a growing up to accepting that there was no way to do no harm, and it just felt a massive release of weight off my shoulder of trying to exist in this perfect life with no harm.
Yeah, I think it's almost, as Jordan Peterson, as we mentioned beforehand, that in his book he talks about it as like the fall from the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
If you think you're living, even if you're vegan, whatever you believe, and if you think you're in your little Garden of Eden, you're eating vegan and you're doing no harm, you're not conscious, because that's not the case.
Yeah.
If you are living, the yin yang, there has to be death that's accompanied with that, and death of whatever that is, there's that needs to sustain you. And I think like potentially being in denial about, yes, just through agriculture you're going to kill animals, and I've heard an interesting argument from the carnivore kind of realm, which is like, look, if I eat 1 to 2 kilos of meat a day, that equates to like 1.5 cows a year if you eat nose to tail. So in fact, technically, they could only kill maximum 2 animals and feed themselves for a year. Like, in my opinion, that seems like, obviously it's not the case if you're buying stuff like more than 1 cow, but in total, that kind of technically could feed you.
Yeah.
And I believe there's a great book called The Year of the Cow, in which a guy bought a pasture-raised cow, slaughtered, butchered it all up, chucked it in the freezer, and he fed his family of 4 for their main meals for like over an entire year, just with that one animal.
Wow. I've said it in interviews that and it upsets the vegans, but the grass-fed organic beef could be the most vegan product in the supermarket. Like it could have the least harm, the least suffering, the least environmental damage. Maybe they don't get it from a supermarket, but from the farm shop, like.
Yeah. I had this literal conversation with. I was in my local butcher's the other day, and the lady I was buying. I bought like a whole cut of meat because I wanted to, I try to eat pretty much the whole animal. If I do eat the animal, I try to buy a whole cut. Yeah. And she was like, "That's a lot of meat you're buying there. What about the environment?" And she had like in her bag, she had some mangoes from Africa. She had all these other things that have been flown into the UK. Yeah. And I'm like, what's the biggest environmental impact here?
And like at this point, I'd lean on yours being more environmental, right? But even you can't define either way. The point is just to stop judging each other and pushing our beliefs on each and pushing it onto each other. Yeah. And just the happier we are, the better decisions we all seem to make anyway. Like we
Absolutely.
So it's like focus on being happy, and from there we'll make better choices rather than focus on trying to save everything. Because like there's a microcosm and the macrocosm, and it's like we're so focused with veganism. You focus on the micro, you focus on farm animals. But you're missing the bigger picture of all the insects, all the animals, all the plants, everything. It's like
the issues of spraying pesticides and all these sort of things.
Yeah, it's like how much of that are we consuming, Roundup and all that.
Yeah, I certainly, and I think as well, I certainly maybe have a little bit of a biased opinion as well, but I think anyone who presents that idea that they know everything and can answer all the questions hasn't done enough research into it, or has only researched one side of it.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend the entire time chatting about the vegans. I know that's very much like that's engrossed you in the past, but you're so much more than just a vegan diet. You've become so many more things. So I just wanted to end it with just saying a big respect for you to speak in your truth and staying authentic and being honest with people. I think we need more of that online. I did want to delve into the Ninja Warrior stuff because I kind of glossed over it at the beginning for me because it's not something that I thought of you as I've followed you for a number of years and synonymously sort of with the Walters and Shieff and Autopsy and all those sort of things. What was training for the Ninja Warrior like? What was the experience like? Are you planning on getting back into it anytime soon?
Yeah. So I sort of fell into it randomly, being in America at the right time and having American citizenship. I did one probably like 8 years ago. I did an American one, and I did well. I managed to win the semi-final and make it to Vegas and won a bit of prize money in that. And that was just without any specific training. But of course, they started to make the courses harder, and they started to have specific training for it. And so in America, there's some incredible gyms. There's one in San Francisco, which is really good. Apex, I think, is half parkour, half Ninja Warrior gym. Mm-hmm. So training at places like that were cool. But I never really got a good long stint. Most of my training for Ninja Warrior for the UK series was done in David Lloyd Gym. and it was just a lot of hanging, really. Yeah, just lots of hanging. All the agility stuff is just in me from doing parkour growing up. Like, that's there. Most of my training is sharpening the axe, I think my body's capable of it, and then so it's just hanging stamina. But I really had no explosive power. The last season when I got the furthest, I couldn't barely do 5 pull-ups. Like, I really couldn't. But I could hang. I could train. My training was all slow yoga and hanging, and then on the day you got the crowd and the energy. I could turn it on and get through as long as I was sharp, and so it was just sharpening the axe. But truthfully, for Ninja Warrior, I'd say most of the training is agility, so parkour, and then hanging or rock climbing. I'd recommend that to people if people are interested in doing that. There's a Ninja Warrior gym in Manchester called Total Ninja, cool. But it's built more like the course, but it's not like adaptable. I've got a friend, Dion Trigg, who's actually built a Ninja Warrior sort of lab, and those places are more fun, where it's like he's been on the show, but he's also a massive fan, and they do their own Ninja Warrior competitions. They train from complete kids to adults to people that go on the show, and they adapt the course that they have at the studio space kind of thing. So there's some really cool ninja gyms opening up, but there's nothing really in London that exists.
Okay, cool. And like, what is your kind of current focus and training? Like, I've noticed over the past sort of 6 months, you put on a lot of muscle mass, and I presume that's just like the reaction to the change in your diet.
Yeah.
But like, where are you taking your training? You've got all this history of Ninja Warrior, parkour, stuff. I've seen you've been going at the one-arm handstand, which is something that I'm still working away on, and somehow you've picked that in like 2 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, that was my first love of movement was breakdancing. So, and I think what we did as a teenager is really influential in what we're capable of as an adult. Like,
absolutely.
It's just there in me. Like, as long as my body's sharp, I can handstand on one hand for like 20 seconds. It just comes. Like,
that's
it's so
ridiculous.
Weird. Yeah, it's weird. And then I see these people that get into handstands in their 30s, 40s, and they're just doing repetition after repetition, and they really can't seem to find it. And and my form isn't right if you compare it, but I can balance on one hand if that's the goal.
I mean, technically that passes.
yeah, that's the thing. Really, my goal, I know what I've achieved as an athlete, and I've got a really good relationship with my body, where I've really been limited by mobility, and yet I've still done so much. Like, if you watch my old videos, parkour videos, and you have to understand mobility to see, because people always assume, they go, oh, you must be really supple to be able to do what you do, or really flexible. And then really, I've never really been that flexible.
You're almost more like a spring. Like you can take an impact to a certain degree and then rebound and transfer energy out of it.
You would see my ankles or my feet or, certain positions. Yeah, I guess it is quite springy, but there's still tightnesses all over. And so my goal is sort of taking 10 steps back right now and just getting the mobility, the foundation. Like I did CrossFit, the CrossFit Open, and I enjoy CrossFit training, but at the same time with the heavy weights and that, it did open me up a bit, but also I started to feel stiff and heavy, and it's like, if I really worked on the foundations of movement and worked strength and depth, I can really go a lot further than I've ever been before. I'd love to make another show reel or something, but I've got to put the time in and no rush, take a year, take 3 years to just do the beginner's yoga, do the mobility work, go through the course that you wrote for me. I've been speaking to Emmett Lewis. I'd love to go train with him,
Yeah, Emmett's a great guy. Very interesting.
Yeah, just to really get the anatomy stuff down and to understand my body and to keep progressing with the mobility stuff, but stay strong, like I say, strength in depth, like work on that and just see where I could go with that. And also, I spend a lot of time in nature in the mountains. That's done a lot for me, a lot of wild camping and hiking and running and stuff. Like a mobile body, I just love being a human with a body and seeing the potential of what we can do with our bodies. It's just undoing the years of bad posture, isn't it? It's like it's so much undoing to do, but when you get glimpses of the joy that you can use your body for running up and down a mountain, or for doing corkscrews, swing throughs and flipping, or for doing laches and giants around a bar,
Yeah.
So much fun to be had with the body, and I'm just in the process of paying it forward and putting in the work now so that I can have many more years of doing movement better than I've ever done it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting as well. Like, obviously, you've achieved these very high levels of sort of things that the body can do, but at the same time, you're putting all this value into what some people might see as basic, and but actually, like having the ability just to sit in a squat and feel good, be able to touch your toes, have some good hamstring flexibility, like all of these sort of things are a freedom of the body that's just as free, or as not impressive, but like sort of being able to do a flip is the same. Like it's got the same sort of feeling to it.
Yeah. For me, like my goal is just to be able to sit cross-legged comfortably for 10 minutes. Do you know what I mean? Like I want to get into. I do meditation and stuff, but I want to do a vipassana, like a 7-day silent retreat type thing. But if I can't sit cross-legged comfortably for 2 minutes, that's going to be the biggest hell on earth.
Yeah.
So if I can work on the mobility and that's why you understand the yogis, and that all makes sense to me. They're all free in their body, so then they can sit comfortably and then can shoot out, into meditation, into pure samsara or whatever, because their body is, when it's free, its natural ability to sit comfortably still is like. Then you can go into these depths within the mind and the spirit and stuff. It's like, it's all so tied in, but I think the root of it all is children have free bodies, so it's like focus, like that's where we need to be at. They help them not cause the problems we've caused on ourselves, but also get ourselves back to that state. And
yeah, it's interesting that you have to kind of undo a lot of the things you do to yourself. You watch a kid, they can squat, they can move around, they can do all these things. A lot of it's because they haven't had that patterning of most patterns into them. They haven't got used to sitting in a chair or doing these things.
Footwear and chairs, right?
Yeah. So it's very interesting. You're right. Like, and you mentioned Paul Chek. Paul Chek's very into the importance of like educating people how to crawl if they haven't been able to crawl, or doing some of these basic human patterns, integrating upper and lower body.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. Sorry.
That's what fascinated me when I first read his book, Eat, Move and Be Healthy, was he helped top athletes with injuries they couldn't heal for years, and he took them right back to the baby state of just crawling, just lying on your back and moving around. And playing with that stuff is phenomenal. You notice how much like your hips get involved, your corset around your body, like just lying on your back and playing with that stuff. And there's also Chris Summers.
Yep. Yeah.
Gymnast bodies, like I've got a friend called Nick. He lives in Ibiza, and he's like 50. He's 49, and he was it's a long story, but he was a white boy from London, went to prison in Argentina, got into yoga there, and then he got fascinated with yoga, and he moves so freely, and he's got a really good movement space called Project in Ibiza. If anyone's ever there, I'd recommend checking it out.
I've heard about Nick from a friend, actually.
Yeah, amazing guy, and he's basically was just a stiff, tight person, and now he's freed his body, and he has so much fun, and he climbs every day, and the stamina in the body is even better when it's free. When it's not running down. When you're loose, you can do more. You can use the body more each day for longer periods and stuff.
Yeah, or movements that would cause more effort to get through in the past become more efficient. There's less resistance to it.
Less resistance, yeah, and so therefore less inflammation is caused, which comes from the resistance. Like I just see people like that, and I'm like, cool. I've got that vision to like just commit to this, and so he got into yoga, but he showed me that he did Chris Summers' program, Gymnast Bodies, but he bought it when it was like £800 for the package. It wasn't as, now you pay a subscription and they do like 20-minute workouts or whatever. Back then it was just like, right, you want to do a handstand, you do this, you start at the beginning, you do this mobility drill, and you do this strengthening drill. When you can do that for 60 seconds and that's 60 reps, then you move on to the next one, and it was just boom, 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 work through. And he basically did that and Ashtanga yoga, and those were the two things what I've seen of him, that he committed to both of them, and it freed his body. And the way he talks about the body just opens up together, like everything's so connected. It's not like you just open your ankle; it's like you open your hip and it opens your knee and your ankle and your shoulder. And it's like once you realize this stuff, it's like cool. So you have to constantly be. That's why yoga is a full practice around the whole body. And
yeah, I mean the movement's only one aspect of it, but I certainly think like stretching, even out of the yoga realm, like getting people to do stretching, be present in their body, and tolerate the stretch reflex and learn to relax into a position. Definitely there is a massive link between that mental connection, that physical reaction.
Yeah, and the Edo stuff, like you say, beyond yoga, it's like you need to do the Edo stuff where it's playful movement. You're in squat, throwing balls at the wall and bouncing and catching, and like
and then what does he do? He does a lot of throw, and a lot of that is crawling patterns, quadruped patterns that we spoke about earlier. It's all very much, in my opinion, interlinked.
Yeah, it is. So that's one of the things I've not begun yet. I'm still just hitting I'm like, it's just me and 60-year-old women in this beginner's yoga class. I'm there every day, and it's what you bring to it, because you're not there trying to hold Warrior One for ages. It's like you sat down most of the time just doing gentle spinal twists, but if you're present with it, it's what you bring to it, right? So you're there and you're breathing with it, and you're noticing every little vertebrae, and you're really trying to feel your hip engage. And it's like, okay, so that once I've done this, I want to get to do the gymnastic bodies. I want to sign up to that and start going through some of his programs, because they seem really, that's all about a lot of core and Pilates type stuff,
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to withhold my comments on gymnastics bodies, but
no, you can tell me, man.
Nah, I'm good. I don't want to anger people, but I mean, from chatting to you today, like, and what I've followed you and seen what you've been up to, it kind of sounds like a rebirth of Tim Shieff, a new beginning.
Yeah, that's the we'll see.
Cool. So what? Last question I had for you is just kind of what are your plans for the future? I mean, we've talked about your training at the moment, the fact that you want to be more supple, more mobile, do these things, but like, where do you see you? Because you've clearly been a big influence to a lot of people's lives. Like, where do you see that presence and influence going in the next few years? What message are you going to try? Do you see yourself trying to portray?
I think getting people to go out into nature more. Like, I think you need to have a relationship with your body, especially in the city more than anywhere, to feel content. But the one thing I think we miss from our daily lives is that animals is some sort of survival. Like we truly, you don't really feel alive until you're in a survival moment, or you put yourself into that once in a while. So just going out for long walks in nature, like where you're out, you can't just get thirsty and buy a bottle of water from the local shop. It's like you've got to think about things. You've got to be prepared as a human. What do I need that I take for granted every day? That's just always around me. And so I think I go out to Snowdon a lot and up into Lake District, and I want to spend more time in Scotland. It's a bit more wild. I just did my mountain leader training course, so I want to do the test and get qualified to be a mountain leader, so I can lead hikes and expeditions of people. But I think there's a real big resurgence of like young people, especially on the internet, getting into calisthenics and into body weight, and the mobility growth is phenomenal to watch, man. I think the flip side of that is using that body out in nature and spending time out there as well. Yeah, so I want to inspire people to do that. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think drawing back to one of your points about taking cold showers, I think that's like what you mentioned about being less comfortable and putting yourself through like a survival feeling. Like getting cold is one of the really basic things that people can do to feel that. Like there's a lot of, when you mention to people about taking a cold shower, they're like, oh, why would I do that? Like there's this like kind of fear response to it, but like you kind of need that element of adversity training. And our life we are very lucky, we're very fortunate, and I think you can never forget that. And introducing a little bit of adversity into your life through getting outside, understanding how brutal nature can be, doing a cold shower, all of these sort of things that you mentioned, I think is a really great way to experience that. Yeah,
it helps you just appreciate the comforts that we do have, like you say.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. I'm really happy you managed to make it onto the podcast. As I said, like, it's been a very interesting, just like observing kind of the process that you've been through and the reaction that people have had and how you've dealt with it and where you're going with your life. So thank you for sharing some of your inner thoughts with that.
No worries, man. Yeah, thanks for having me on, and thanks for doing what you do. Like, you offered I really had many days in the gym just stretching out with your videos, your hamstring like tutorials. On my phone playing out, and then I've got other friends like my mate Av really loves watching your stuff and doing your morning routines and stuff like that, and to see the growth of your channel, it's been awesome, man. Keep being true to yourself and doing what you're doing, and I'll meet you in London sometime.
Definitely. For those of you who don't know where you can find Tim, I'll put some links in the description down below to where you find him. I think it's Timothy the Human, or Human Timothy on Instagram. You've got a YouTube channel as well, and also you should definitely check out Walters and Shieff for some old school YouTube epic shots. They're fun. They're great.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Thank you again for coming onto the show, and I'll catch you soon.
Thanks, Tom. Speak to you again soon, mate. Cheers.
Cheers.